And at the cert level, they get the 9%. At your level, at the bar level, they don't get the 9%. So their thinking is, look, I have nothing to lose. It's the legal fees are mostly on contingency, so their only expense is the filing fee and the cost of the appraiser. And you know what? That's not a lot considering the numbers that are at stake. So again, this is just a thought. At some point, we can sit with Mitch and see if this works. But again, it's the same. I mean, people need to understand these are the same properties filing year in and year out. We're not getting new certs. We're getting pretty much the same properties all the time, and that tells us that these people are either, very unhappy or they have very aggressive lawyers.
Yeah, I think that well, thank you so much.
I have one question.
Yes, please.
I'm just curious, when you say that, fortunately it's not the case in our town where we aggressively pursue this under the supervisor's direction, why would other municipalities be so keen to kick the thing down the road if they're going to pay 9% interest down the road? That's an awfully high amount.
Because it's tomorrow's problem. Every year they go through a difficult budget process. If they can get away with it, there's always a thinking next year's going to be better. Sales tax revenues may be up. We're going to get mortgage tax revenues are going to be up. It may be someone else's problem. That is a government mentality that's been part of this country for 100 years.
Give a high pension because down the road someone.
It's a very common thought process, and let's face it, these are not a big priority for a lot of towns, and they always take a very defensive mode. They delay them as long as they can. They don't complain. There are over 7,000 cert claims pending in Westchester Supreme Court. In fact, Judge Shankman had to assign other judges just to clean up the backlog on the cert claims. And in bad times, I think you get even more cert claims. So over the last 3 or 4 years, as the economy has tanked, you're seeing a lot more cert claims than you're seeing more scars, although scars are handled separately in a different court. There's a huge backlog of cert cases, which only contributes to the delay. And the 4 years, actually, some of our cases, the judge allowed it to go beyond the 4 years because they were so old, and he actually cleaned up some of the older cases to get them more current. But 4 years is pretty much standard operating procedure.
So, Mr. Noto,
but I think I'd love to go to Albany, but I think more constructive is we need to go to the schools, we need to go to the villages, we need to make each of our constituent municipalities more fully aware of the problem. I have to say, when I took office, I was not as fully aware of this problem. And what you can see, if you allow the problem to fester, it creates real problems and real. So I think that one thing we're going to do with what we were hoping to have. We had a very constructive meeting with the members of the Board of Assessment Review, and of course they see the problem up front. I think and they volunteered to work with us. Once we put this presentation together, to go to each of the municipalities and show them exactly how much risk they are, and then create support and encourage State Assemblyman Latimer, if he could just get the home rule the same as the State Senate, we would be done. There's nothing, if we can get this approved, there's nothing more important we will have done. Nothing would be more important than this if we can get it approved, by far and away.
I would take a multi-step approach, Councilman Villanova. I think that, yes, we have to ride with Assemblyman Latimer's bill here. Hope he gets it passed. And by the way, it is a Rye-only bill. It's a home rule bill for the town of Rye, so it only applies to the town. If that's not successful, we would ask that it be resubmitted in January. In addition to that, I think it might be worth a try to have the assessor reach out to these same 100 property owners who continually file certs, to request them to come in and have a conversation with him about the valuation and see if that works. If it doesn't work and they're unreasonable, then we go back to the supervisor's wall of shame. And candidly, part of this effort, and I know that Joe talks about it, and some of us have cautioned him about it, but the reality is this: if the town makes a sincere effort to sit down and say, we're at full value, these are our numbers, these are how we get to this number, why do you think we're wrong? And they say, we don't want to meet with you, we don't want to talk to you, then that is shameful. And I think they deserve to be rebuked. And I think they deserve to be rebuked publicly. Because the town, unlike any other town, by the way, I've never heard of a town doing this, candidly, reached out to them and said, look, you think we disagree on the value, let's sit down and talk about it like adults, and you're telling me no thanks, because I'm going to go to court and try and beat you. That's disrespectful of the town, in my opinion, and I think they would be well deserving of a public rebuke from the town of Rye. So that would be my secondary position after we are simultaneous with the legislation. I would have no compunction about encouraging the town to make that outreach, and that would be unprecedented. And I think these people would be embarrassed if the town said, we reached out to this owner of all these commercial properties, and their response was, no thanks, we don't really want to talk to you. We want to go to Supreme Court and make you, pay legal fees and interest because we think you're wrong, without telling us that in advance.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I know Town Assessor Markowitz, Town Attorney Noto, and Mr. Arcaro put a lot of time and effort into the presentation tonight. Town Attorney Noto put together an excellent memo. I see some, well, I don't know if you're here as a citizen or member of the press, but I'd encourage you to get a copy of the memo. Really describes the process really well. So, Mr. Arcaro, Markowitz, and Noto, thank you so much for that presentation. That was very helpful. And sorry, Councilman Yorst, I didn't want to cut off your questions. Did you have any questions that weren't answered, or did you have any further questions?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Well, thanks again for that. Finance. We've talked finance, presentations from it. Mr. Mecca, do you have anything for us this evening? Yep. Sure.
Can you give us a report on how the new machines work?
Yeah, you can.
I don't have any tomatoes.
Just want to alert everyone in the audience and in TV, if you're responsible for your village tax, it's time for the second installment. You will receive a notice next week. Unfortunately, I have no control over the calendar. It is Thanksgiving, but this is the way it works out. But you'll see on here that it says paid if you paid your first half, and if you have not, it'll have a balance in there plus your interest in the second half. So also in the back is the instructions on how to go online. We did have 100 people so far last time to go. Hopefully that'll double or triple. But you have all the instructions back here that show you how to go online, where you can make an online payment or a credit card payment. Okay?
Wonderful.
Any
Thank
questions for me?
No, that's wonderful, Mr. Mecca.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Attorney, just quickly on the In-rem, how are we coming along with those?
So the 36 for 2010. 36 paid. 3 have paid in full. 1 is committed to pay by December 10th. 25 are outstanding. The rest are outstanding, but 25 are town and country.
Okay, great.
And before we adjourn, I need a brief executive session on a pending contract matter.
Okay, so let's not forget to do that. Yep. Mr. Nardi?
Okay, with the Southbury Avenue Bridge, I'm still waiting for the plans, but I asked Anam and Kirby to give me, heads up on what's going on so far, what they've gotten accomplished. So far, they got the design of rehabilitated wall and sidewalk section completed. Plans are being drafted to necessarily detail for accurate bid pricing and be completed and are being completed now. They expect to have plans for a December meeting in order to advertise a bid in January. They want to perform interviews, select contractor in late January, early February, and start construction in late February, early March. We're on there. They've got the permit application for the village of Mamaroneck, just in case we need it. They're preparing that, getting it filled out. And that's about that. That's about all that is with that. Sells, the architect for Village of Mamaroneck, for the Jefferson Avenue Bridge, had sent out letters to all the utilities to get prepared for relocating or moving their utilities when they start for the bridge.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nardi.
Thank you.
So we'll get that final report in December.
Yes, December meeting. The December meeting I won't be here though. So,
Somebody
but I'll
you could
have,
submit it to.
yeah, I'll give it to Bishop.
Okay.
Whatever I have, I'll give it to Bishop.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Nardi. Mr. Arcaro, you talked to us about both the ceremony at the African American Cemetery this Saturday, as well as just some of the information you pulled together in the Model American community, just to introduce that idea.
Sure, be happy to. I think the first item that you mentioned is a wonderful ceremony going to occur this Saturday at 10 o'clock at the African American Cemetery, which is adjacent to Greenwood Cemetery off of North Street. There has been a wonderful support from the American Legion that has recognized that at that cemetery there are, I think, 91 veterans buried there from the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, the Civil War, and it would be proper, I think, for them to be recognized. So a good committee has gotten together, and the ceremony will start at 10 o'clock, and again, thanks to the American Legion, all are invited not only to the ceremony, but afterwards to the American Legion right here on Pearl Street for a reception. So that's this Saturday at 10 o'clock.
You know, we've heard about this project before in previous town meetings, but I think this should be a wonderful day. So if you can make it, want to walk off some of your Thanksgiving turkey, it's a good event. Terrific. And could you just, you put in our package some information on the Model American communities?
Sure. I think a very exciting project, the Model American community, in that a number of communities tend to reach out to their residents to kind of ask them the question, if everything was perfect, what would the community look like to you? And so they go through a process. And then they go through a second process after they come to that of, let's implement that. Let's make our community better in this area or that area. And in the packet you'll see there's, I guess, some that's often held as a high standard, which is in Truckee Meadows tomorrow. And there's some extensive information about that community. But then also we took a look at those in the New York Mid-Atlantic area that are doing something similar, but not as aggressive, I think, as we are here in the town of Rye. Greater Rochester, which includes a number of counties, not just the city of Rochester. Norwalk, 82,000, a little bit larger, but they are entering into the same kind of project. Northampton, Massachusetts, 28,000. Burlington, Vermont, 38,000. So some that are coming close with the population here in the town. And then Boston, 600,000. All of them ask basically this, as we say, the same questions. What would our community look like if everything was wonderful from your point of view? And I think you'll see from the reports a lot of commonalities come up. They talk a lot about economy, that everyone would have a job, a decent wage. Everyone would have a home they could afford. You'll see a lot there about recreation and open space. Civic participation, almost invariably, there's a piece about voting. And I think one of the interesting things is not only asking the question, what would make you feel really good about living in the community, but also how do we as a community measure our progress in that? So trying to select things that are measurable, increase in voter turnout, more affordable housing, more parks, or more use of the parks. So I think that's the kind of approach I think that would be very exciting here in our town. And we have hopefully two partners in that. One we certainly have already, the Council of Community Services, to help us in reaching out and seeing what many of the nonprofits who work with many of the community organizations and individuals in the town, what they feel, as well as working with the Chamber, reaching out to the business community. So I think a potentially very exciting project. We should feel very good about it because others have done it, so we can draw on their experience. But I think this is kind of a special place, and it will be a wonderful process. We should feel very good about it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Arcaro. I see there's a group called the Community Indicators Consortium.
Yes.
Have you contacted them yet?
Yes, much of this information came from them. They are kind of a clearinghouse, themselves a nonprofit organization, but a national one that try to help communities who are trying to do things like this. Some of the communities don't do it across the board. Some communities just do it in, let's say, health, or do it in recreation. Some communities, as we are, I think, talking about here in the town, do it across the board, all the issues. So the consortium is a wonderful resource group for that.
Wonderful. And then just